Hi everyone, I'm Angela and I'll be sharing my screen for my presentation. So you guys can see it, right? Okay. So hi, I'm Angela and I am the Food Justice Fellow, and this is going to be basically like a reflection on some of the work that I did during the fellowship year. So to start, introducing myself. Hi, I'm a graduating senior from Skyline High School, which is in Oakland, and I'm from East Oakland myself. And this is my second year as a fellow, and I've been a part of New Voices for about 3 years now, very long time. And, since my first internship year, I've always been interested in food justice. So, finally being the Food Justice Fellow this year has been so awesome. And I've learned a lot about food justice from both like New Voices and also being an extern last year for another organization called Hope Collaborative for summer, which was really nice. So I'm glad to be sharing my knowledge today and like all the work that I've done with everyone here. So to start, earlier in the fellowship year, I did a focus group for our air quality project with the fellows. So I wanted to tie the importance that plants have on our environment's air quality due to like their ability to absorb pollutants like carbon dioxide. And so I made up this presentation, basically like putting together a bunch of different topics. And I got a lot of my inspiration from a past fellowship project that I did last year, from when I was the East Oakland Air Quality Fellow, where I held my own focus group with people from my school, also about air quality. So I kind of wanted to use my focus group from this year as a way of like building on my presentation and like facilitation skills. And I just wanted to show how much I've grown and also showcase my new knowledge that I've learned. So I was able to make some slides that I was really proud of. So to get into the prepping part, so, for a focus group, you always have to have questions to ask people. So, I brainstormed those. I had some background informational slides that I will show later. I did specific research on like what type of plants would absorb different pollutants. And I also did research on buffer zones and tree canopies, basically things that would tie back the importance of plants and like home gardens in people's communities. So here I have like a GIF of all of this informational slides that I did. So you can see that like I tried to use as many visuals as possible because sometimes words don't really cut it. So I just wanted to show how plants are important and they contribute to the overall air quality of not just Oakland, but also the entire Bay Area. So you can see in those the graphs, I kind of connect them all back together. Um, I also explain what tree canopies are. So if you don't know what tree canopies are, it's basically a way to measure how shaded an area is based on how many trees it has. So basically, the more tree canopy an area has, the cooler it is because the more trees that are covering the ground. And I also talk about buffer zones, which are areas of green space used as barriers to block and filter out pollution before it hits communities. And the last thing I talked about were, indoor plants that you could have in your home and what kind of pollutants they absorb. So these were the main points of my presentation. But, to start, you always need a warm-up question. So for my warm-up question, I used this app called Pear Deck, which allowed people to like write, draw, or like drag and drop stuff onto my slides. So my warm-up question was, what's your favorite homemade comfort food? Draw it here. So you can see everyone drew their own comfort food. So we had like tomato soup, ramen, rice, like a bunch of different stuff. And this will come back later. So keep all these comfort foods in your mind. But now for the actual focus group, I asked different questions like, how do you think plants are related to air quality? And do you think there are enough plants in your own community? You know, just stuff relating back to the topic of green spaces and home gardens in low income neighborhoods and how incorporating more of these could improve the air quality and just like the quality of life in all of these places. So now getting into the questions and the answers that I asked. So I'll just show you some of the features that I got back. So again, I used Pear Deck, which allowed them to type out their responses. Also, I also had them speak it out loud, but you know, having their records on online is way better than writing it down yourself. So you can see this question I asked is about tree canopies, which if you can remember from earlier, tree canopies are a way of measuring how much of a city is covered by trees. So these answers all talk about, you know, tree canopies are really important and they provide shade and like also absorb CO2 for all the cities below. You know, one of the questions also talk about the urban heat island effect, which I didn't even talk about in my presentation, which was really interesting to hear about, you know. And then my next question was about what do you think the government can do to combat food apartheid? So if you don't know what food apartheid is, it's basically a community that of typically low income people of color that lack access to things like affordable grocery stores and just food that is healthy due to where they live and like their race and their class. So, you know, these communities typically live near several like liquor stores or fast food restaurants and are forced to buy from them due to, you know, them just being right there and their inexpensiveness. So I asked this question because one of the ways to combat food apartheid is by investing in home gardens, but you know, that's on a very individual and like community level, but I wanted to see what the participants had to say about getting the government involved in this. And I got so many good responses, like, you know, getting an increase in funding for more local grocery stores and also limiting fast food places to like, you know, you can't have a McDonald's right next to a Taco Bell and you can't have the Taco Bell next to a Burger King, which is a real place in Oakland. All three of those are right next to each other. But anyway, I did not just have them type out all their responses. I also had them draw out their own their home garden, because many of the participants in my focus group were interns last year, where we all got our own home garden. And you can see that many of them did not really survive. But you know, this leads to my next question, which sparked a little bit more hope, I think. And it was about their ideal garden. So you can see that many of them include, you know, benches, ponds, green spaces, and also include lots of fresh fruit and vegetables for people in the community to go and enjoy. So I use this last question as the way to close out my focus group. So, you know, I hope my participants get their future gardens created one day. So now, to reflect back on this focus group, I, I was really glad for how it turned out. You know, I feel like I got a lot of good responses and feedback. And, you know, using Pear Deck, I think, was one of the best things I could have done for this focus group, because I really liked the way they engaged with it. Um, and, you know, maybe I'll use Pear Deck for a future focus group or presentation, you know? And, you know, using this topic, I love learning about air justice and food justice. So, you know, this topic was kind of perfect for me. And this was only my second time hosting a focus group. So I hope I get to do more related to even more like different EJ topics. So yeah. And now, so you might be wondering, the focus group is over. What else did I have to do? Well, following the focus group, I started to work on a cookbook based on everyone's comfort food. So based on these responses here, I made a little cookbook, which I will point at right here on Canva. So I took this warm-up question and I turned it into a little book of recipes for everyone. And, you know, because food is a very universal language and, you know, always unites people in different cultures and stuff. So this showcases everyone's different comfort food. You know, everyone has something different. And I just think that and they all have their own little story connected to it, like their own little personal connections. So yeah, you can read it and you can, you know, maybe make it your own. And you know, food has a very food can be a very sacred thing for a lot of people, and you know, certain foods hold special meanings for different people. You know, from pasta to gumbo, there's a little something for everyone here. So yeah, and this closes out my presentation. Thank you.